Howdy folks, welcome to the Daily Coin. My name is Rory and today is Tuesday, May the 30th, 2017, and I have the very distinct honor and great pleasure of welcoming to the show for the first time Mr. Derrick Broze. And Derrick does a lot of work. You can find a lot of his work over at Activist Post. He's also currently getting ready to launch a tour called Decentralize Your Life, which we are all about here at the Daily Coin, as you all know. And Derrick, give us an idea of what to expect for Decentralize Your Life. What are we looking at here?
Absolutely. Thank you, Rory. I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you and your audience about this issue that I think is going to be right up their alley. So the Decentralize Your Life Tour is something I started working on last fall. First, just kind of putting the idea out there to my following or my supporters if they would be interested in hearing me do a national speaking tour, talking about my journalism experiences, talking about my books and some of my philosophy, as well as community activism, community building, focusing on building local power, community power, and giving people the power back into their own hands and not into the hands of institutions like government. So I started floating that idea and got a pretty good response at first, and it just evolved from there. Then when I realized that I had about 60 different cities with at least one or two or several people, in some cases, in these cities willing to host me and as well as my housemates who are coming along this tour, host us and find venues for us to speak at, as well as find venues and opportunities for us to volunteer in communities, which is what we're going to be doing. I realized, okay, this is going to happen. This is a real opportunity now. So probably after February-ish, and I came back from speaking in Acapulco in Mexico, I started putting all my energy into this. And then my book came out, Manifesto of the Free Humans, and that's really the big emphasis of the book, is building locally and creating decentralized power through cryptocurrency and through other means. So I realized, okay, the book's out now. The message is out there, but a lot of the message, it's really a message that is, for me, it needs to be done in person. You know, you can only do so much through the internet, as beautiful as it is. Some of these ideas are better transferred and better communicated, transmuted in person, face to face, on the ground level in communities. So then I realized, okay, this is what this is going to be. This speaking tour is going to be about. It's not just going to be me talking like, here are my ideas, here are the answers I've come up with, but also taking the ideas of the Conscious Resistance, which is my website and my book series, and what I now call holistic anarchism, taking these ideas, taking this decentralized message on the road, and doing it in the way that we're actually giving to each community. So every single city that we're going to visit, as I said, we were contacted by about 60 or so. We've narrowed it down this time to about 51 cities. We'll be going to more next year, but for now, this is what we can do. And we're hitting each city. We're going to be doing some community volunteering in the early evening, what we're calling action days. This is an idea I picked up from another musician who tours, and just a very conscious person who's not just going around spreading his music, but trying to get people involved in their own communities. And this is what we want to do. So every city that we visit, we'll be doing homeless outreach. We've got some feeding the homeless activities, handing out clothes and just needed items in some cities. Other cities, we might be cleaning up a park or planting trees. We're also going to be doing a lot of community gardening and building new gardens or volunteering, other permaculture-related activities. So we'll actually be giving to the communities that we're involved with, not simply coming along and saying, pay attention to us and what we're doing, but supporting them in that way. And the other beautiful thing that we're seeing is this really synergistic action taking place where we're reaching out to people like yourself who are interested in helping us find locations and venues to work with. And through that, they're meeting other people. We're like, hey, we have contact from another person in your city. Contact them. Y'all work together. And then they meet somebody new that they didn't even know. And maybe this person, has resources they need, or they have different resources. We're also finding venues in some cases that people didn't even realize were in their own backyard. So in a lot of ways, it's building relationships already. It's bringing people to a new awareness of what's in their community. And that's the goal of what we're trying to do with that. And then after the community action, the action day, we'll be going to do the main event, the evening event, which will start off with a short guided meditation, which is going to be led by my partner Miriam, who's also traveling with us. She'll be doing a meditation introducing the event. Then my two housemates, Johnny and Jeffer, who live here in the Freethinker house space in Houston, with the Houston Freethinkers activist community that I started in 2010. This is our base for spreading the concept of freedom cells that this tour is focused on. It's our base for hosting documentary screenings, for hosting different community events. We have our own community garden here where we do regular garden days and all kinds of events. This is just a hub for these activities. So they're going to come speak and talk about their experience involved with that and what they've learned and some tips and ideas. And then I'll be doing a new presentation that's going to cover the information in my latest book, as well as some brand new concepts that I haven't talked about before that are very particular for this tour. And then to close the night out, Johnny and Jeffrey also have a band together, and them and their drummer are going to be traveling with us, and they're going to close the evening with some music out. So it'll have all these elements of community volunteering, meditation, awareness, communicating new ideas, talking about ideas that are based on solutions and decentralization, as well as music. And we're also asking people that if they are involved in the local community, they're activists, want to come speak and say, hey, these are some projects we have going on, to anyone who may not be aware of them, or even to contribute music or poetry or whatever it may be. We want this to be a completely community-oriented event, not just simply us traveling and sharing our message, but both a two-way street, so to speak.
I like it. I like the whole concept and the idea, and that's the main reason that I reached out to you to conduct this interview. And you guys are coming to Nashville, where I'm at, and I got really excited about that, and just the whole decentralizing your life. I mean, that is a huge theme of the work that I do, and doing it in a peaceful manner and like in what you're trying to do. I think that that's a big part of what we as human beings have to do and must do, is change our world, not only from within, but from without as well. And if you look at some of the greatest thought leaders ever to be, like Gandhi, John Lennon in particular, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., I mean, these people, all of them, all these three in particular, their message was, we can change this, and we don't have to be violent. I mean, John Lennon said that if you become violent, they know exactly how to handle you, but if you are nonviolent, they don't know what to do. And I think that that's a big part of that's a big part for me, because
Absolutely,
if you make changes within yourself and then radiate those out, then that starts to affect and infect other people, and then they start getting that same thing going on. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm not so naive to think that there's violence isn't part of our world, or that violence isn't an answer to some of the questions. I'm not that naive. I think that the bigger questions can be answered in a nonviolent, decentralized manner. And Chris Duane from the Silver Shield Group, that's a big part of his message as well. Just walk away, step away from the system. And that's when I first read or heard about Decentralize Your Life, that's exactly what where my thoughts went, were, this is a way of getting out of the system completely. I mean, isn't that really part of your overall theme as far as how to...
Absolutely. This the message is, the decentralization is really a way for us to emphasize certain concepts that I write about and that I believe in, that I think are safer for an audience who might not necessarily be versed in the various philosophies per se, particularly of anarchism, which the majority of the mainstream world, because of various propaganda and every time they hear it on movies or TV, it means chaos in that sense. And so people have this skewed view of the history of the anarchist philosophy and what that essentially means. And at the end of the day, to me, I don't really care whether or not people identify as that, because I don't really walk around telling everybody, hey, I'm an anarchist per se. But if they can understand the concepts, if they get the word decentralization, it sounds safer, and it means basically the same thing. You're decentralizing power, so you're taking away your dependence on the food production systems. You're taking away your dependence on the corporate mainstream deadstream media. You're taking away your dependence on the Federal Reserve System through things like Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. So all these areas of your life, and you really hit on some important points there. A lot of the message, the core of my message with the conscious resistance, is that the fight for freedom, so to speak, the struggle for a more free, more just world, ethical world, is both an internal struggle as much as a physical struggle against, the actual apparatus of power, the political institutions and things of that sort. It's an internal battle in the sense that we have to learn to conquer our internal tyrants and learn to heal our own selves and to make it through our doubts, insecurities, and fears that we each have in different ways, to strive to be better people and to be stronger, empowered individuals. I'm after promoting self-actualization and getting people to be the fullest version of themselves, the best version of themselves that they can be, and then encouraging that in other people. So as you said, that radiates outward, and we see this rippling and creating more and more people who have that same desire, who then are not very easily ruled upon or propagandized or deceived, and are more likely to seek a decentralized lifestyle that doesn't, hey, I don't want to work with this money anymore because it's funding things I don't like. You know what? I don't want to support this food industry because it's doing horrible things to, animals in ways we don't need to, or it's supporting Monsanto and pesticides, or, I want to unplug my kids from this state education system because it's feeding them a version of history I don't agree with, or things of this nature. You start to realize the power and taking your life back into your own hands. And so the philosophy, both of anarchism as well as more specifically the philosophy of agorism, which is a philosophy that is new, developed in the last 50 years or so, and I'm really doing my work to bring it to a new audience and to expand it in the age of the internet and get people to see that agorism essentially means trying to create the agora, the free open marketplace where individuals can do business, exchange ideas, exchange products and commerce and all kinds of things. And this is, again, decentralization. And there are some specific tenets of the philosophy that I'll be getting into in the tour as well, and how I think they're valuable. But the truth of the matter is a lot of people are already practicing these things. People who they pay the neighbor to mow their lawn and they pay them in cash. That's gray market. That's off. That's no taxes involved. So they're taking siphoning economic power away from the state and away from the institutions that they don't support and putting them back into their community. And there's a number of different ways to do this, many that people already practice without really any sort of philosophical backing behind it, but they understand it is valuable because they can just go pay their neighbor at a garage sale. And that neighbor doesn't say, okay, that's going to be $6.23 for that DVD or whatever. They just pay them something right there in cash. And when you can go even beyond that and get into Bitcoin and bartering networks, you're really starting to take economic power away from the state, and you can redirect that consciously into other places and build new institutions that actually serve the people and can compete directly with the system rather than attempting to vote them out or pursue some violent revolution. Actually just focusing on what can we do, again, both in our internal world and in the physical world. And I think that starts with an honest examination of your life, asking yourself, what level of freedom are you after? What does freedom really even mean to you? And a lot of people can't answer that question. I think the more you get to know yourself and who you are, then the easier it becomes to understand what freedom means to you and what type of freedom you are actually after. And from that standpoint, then you can say, okay, in what ways am I not free in ways that I want to be? And then you identify those areas. And then from there, you can say, in which ways am I contributing to this limiting of my freedom? And take an honest examination and look and say, oh, well, you know what? I really don't like the pesticide, the Monsanto corporatization of my government and various practices that they are involved in. I don't like that they're a chemical company that was involved with making all these chemical war weapons. But I still buy products that they're helping grow. I still am buying their, Roundup. And then you say, you know what? No longer. I'm not going to support that business. I'm not, you start taking these steps, and that's an individual process. I'm not here to tell anybody else how to live their life, other than just to say that's what it's really going to take. Like, it's not going to come through government, real, true change, and it's not just going to happen by voting one day and then everything gets fixed. It's going to be a generational change, I believe. But I'm determined to promote these ideas now and to live them now and help other people live them now so that the coming generations won't have as difficult of a struggle. And maybe even we can lay the groundwork to something that actually does serve the health and the wealth of the people by this decentralization process. And, the other key concept that I just want to mention, and everybody can look it up on their own, that comes into play with this is what we call freedom cells, which are small groups of individuals coming together, ideally 8 to 10 individuals coming together to share knowledge, to share skills, for community protection, all kinds of different ideas. There's several videos that can be watched and listened to on freedomcells.org. That's CELLS, like the cells in your body. But the idea being that individuals start creating these small groups that are like the cells in your body. Each one is individual and it's doing a task of its own, but it's also part of this larger collective that makes up who you are. So each individual cell could be one that you start in your community, and then you have your 8 to 10 people. You start sharing skills, ideas. You start making sure that everybody's got backup supply of food. It can be, so everybody's on the same level playing ground. Everybody here knows how to build a fire. Everybody here knows how to use a firearm for defense or some other form of self-protection for the community. And then each individual turns around and creates another freedom cell. Then you got 8 groups of 8 to 10 people, 80 to 100 people now spread across one area. And you can see as this idea starts to spread in different communities, which it already is, it's going to create a parallel network of trade, of exchange, where you can travel. You'll know where other like minds are that can connect you to, the Bitcoin companies or to the decentralized currencies of the community gardens and all these kind of things, and really give us a way to spend our money, to spend our time and our energy that doesn't force us to compromise who we are as people. And freedomcells.org is I don't like calling it a social network, but it's a network where people can join. You can create a profile of what your interests are, what your skills are, and through that you can search and find people within 5 miles, 10 miles, 50 miles of you and see what their interests, with the goal of trying to motivate people to connect through that network and then start creating real world freedom cells. And we're seeing this grow, and that's going to be a big part of the tour too, is we're going to try to help build these in people's communities as we visit. And I know that was a lot of information, but yeah, that's, we're planning big things. We have some big
Sounds
ideas.
like it.
We're taking them on the road, and we're really trying to create a movement with this. And as I said earlier, I think the best way to do that is to get on the road and be on the ground level, talking to the people who are concerned with these ideas and who want to find themselves in a more free position, a more happy position.
I love it. I'm now even more excited, Derrick. Just hearing these first few minutes of what everything is all about and what your goals are and what to expect as the tour kind of morphs and changes and gathers some steam. You guys are launching here on June 1st. You're going to start there in Houston. Then you're going over to Austin and San Antonio. You're moving out of Texas about the middle of June, or I'm sorry, you're going to be over in Albuquerque at the beginning of or the middle of July, and you're going to be in kind of the Southwest, kind of Southern California. And my guess is that as the tour progresses, that it's going to change. You're going to pick up new information, probably maybe even some new people that want to tour with you. And one of the things that I wanted to touch on that you brought to the table, and that is monetary system that we currently have in place and the enslavement that it creates. And one of the things that I look at, I like gold and silver a lot. And for every Federal Reserve note that I trade for gold and silver, that removes those Federal Reserve notes from the system. So now those notes are no longer valid to create the death and debt that makes up our government. Cryptocurrencies are doing that as well, and I've not been an advocate of cryptocurrencies. I still am struggling with the whole idea because my personal belief is that it's a step closer to a cashless society. And you had talked about barter and doing transactions in cash and keeping things away from the government by doing that. And cryptocurrencies, they are somewhat opaque. They're still creating a trail. And
Absolutely, yeah. We're definitely not at the perfect point with cryptocurrency yet, and I think you're probably well aware that many people believe that the true revolution that we're seeing here, as far as that technology goes, is related more to the blockchain itself than Bitcoin or its use as a currency. But already there are currencies like cryptocurrencies like Dash or Ethereum that are trying to address some of the problems with Bitcoin, some of the speed issues, for example, or also like the lack of true anonymous capabilities, because we're finding more and more. And I was at the Silk Road trial reporting on Ross Ulbricht's trial in New York, and
Okay.
got to hear firsthand, just how some of the ways people believe their use of Bitcoin or tools like Tor, the anonymous browser Tor, and these type of things that, yeah, the government can still get in there. They can still get that information. They're still able to track it if they really want to at the end of the day. And I think that was an important realization, I know for me and probably for other people as well. And, as far as the concerns about the cashless society, I do think that there is, obviously we understand that the government is always going to try to, if they're not directly responsible for certain movements, they're definitely always going to try to capitalize them and steer them in any direction that is beneficial to them. We understand that. So I think that is a concern. I've heard some people say like, oh, this is going to be the one world currency, the new world order currency and things like that. What I think though is if there was something, as the government tries, particularly the United States tries to maybe start regulating or limiting or restricting in some way, the beautiful thing about the decentralized nature of crypto is that as long as we have power, as long as we have the internet, and those are obviously two concerns, in the long run. But as long as those things are existing, well, the government can go try to make Bitcoin the new Federal Reserve, currency or what have you, and people will just jump to Dash, or they'll jump to Litecoin, or they'll jump to altcoin, or they'll jump to any other one they can, because Pandora is already out of the box. There's hundreds of different cryptocurrencies, and many of them, not just Bitcoin, but are rising in value and starting to. People are seeing like, okay, we're developing different communities with these different cryptos that are being traded among people and accepted by places in the real physical world as much as the digital world, and so I think that ultimately, if they try to do some kind of control, that people will hop away from it. But I do feel your concern with. I definitely am not trying to give up my cash. What I think, though, and this is like if we really think about currency, this is something that came to me the other day, and this is why I also support localized alternative currencies or time banking and credit hours and these different concepts that I hope people will look into that are really unique. Just trading your time directly for other people's time or skills, and I mean, so it gets into this. These things have been tried successfully in the past in smaller communities, and you look at the European Union, right, and the economic collapse of places like Greece and parts of Spain and such, and you're seeing that what they're doing, what some communities are doing, are either switching to barter networks or they're going back to pre-euro currencies and using the local currencies. Like everybody in town will just say, okay, hey, you know what? No more euros here. We're going to take this currency, and everybody here agrees to accept it, and they find a way to make it work. And so if we recognize that, okay, we have this piece of paper, this green piece of paper, the dollar that we know is a Federal Reserve note, that is just the only reason it has value is because the state is enforcing its value, because we all have to play along with that. So we agree to accept it. But you could just as easily create a new paper currency that could be physical, actually money, that just as we're used to it, that could be localized to a particular community, and this would take some work, of course, but it's been done. And so if you have like land projects, if you're out living on the land, you could do that. But I think even in a cityscape or even in a suburban environment, different areas, it would just take using some of the tools we have available, digital tools. Like in the book, I talk about nextdoor.com and Cell 411, and of course the freedomcells.org website, using these different tools, or even just Facebook and getting to know, but these other websites that connect you specifically to people that are close to you. Because Facebook, it's good for some things, but it's also like you're throwing, everything at the wall. And some people are like, they're liking your stuff, but they're all the way across the country. They can't necessarily come help you when you need it. Right. But you want to connect to people that are close to you. And so you could do that and start to say, hey guys, let's create our own currency. It's not the Federal Reserve. No, we got these papers. We're going to call them whatever. And we're going to back, you could, say, hey, these are backed. Let's all gather our gold and put it in the storage. And we all know that these dollars that are in rotation are backed by that gold. Ideally. So you could just as easily create something like that mimics the Federal Reserve System, but without the whole central banking, fiat currency, fractional reserve banking, theft, income tax, all that kind of stuff. And if people chose to accept it, in addition to say dollars, like, it's maybe that's how it starts, just like Bitcoin, it could be a situation where, okay, they try to get rid of the dollars, and they try to say, okay, all digital currency is the only currency used. well, you could still have your own form of cash, if you needed it. Of
Yep.
course, the government would probably try to restrict that. But then I think at that point, if we're reaching that point, then hopefully by that point, it's become painfully obvious to everybody that the government is not here to be your savior, and we've got more than enough support by that point, hopefully.
Well, and really, a lot of what you're describing, Derrick, is simply going back in time. I mean, if we go back and look at what was happening, say in the 1800s, pre-Civil War, from 1800 to about 1850, everything that you just described is really reflective of that time period where you had these small communities, people helped one another, they worked with each other, they bartered, they traded, they would trade, one guy have a horse, another one have a cow, they would swap out, move down the line. This family goes over and helps with that farm one day, and then they reverse roles the next day. And then it's really, and I'm not saying that that's how we're going to evolve, or that that's what the overall message is. Well, it is the overall message of Decentralize Your Life, is to bring it back to the community, to where you actually have a community where people are counting on one another, and not counting on them, but helping out one another, and creating a scenario that works in the way that we want it to work, that works for us instead of enslaving us, which is all that the federal government, local government, state government, that's all they're interested in, is what can we extract from the citizens, and how much can we extract and how quickly. And that's their only interest. And I really love what you're saying and what you're doing. I think that it is so very important, in particular at this time, because I personally believe that our system is on its last leg at this point, with all of the debt, all of the wars. The people around the world are sick up to their eyebrows with what's going on. That's the reason that Trump, love him, hate him, I don't care. I don't care for him, but I think that that's the reason that he was voted in. That's the reason that Brexit happened. That's the
Absolutely.
reason that you're seeing these uprisings in all across Europe. And I personally believe that the French election was rigged. I think that Marine Le Pen, that election was stolen from her, and Macron is a Rothschild product. And we know that government can work for the people. All we have to do is look at what China is doing with the Belt and Road Initiative, where they are building this massive infrastructure all across Europe, all across Eurasia, and connecting everything and everyone. We don't have anything like that going on in the West. We could. Why can't we do a Belt and Road Initiative in my neighborhood? We can, if we work together. And I think that that's
Absolutely.
what you're saying.
Absolutely, yes. Definitely trying to bring power back to the community level and to the neighborhood level. And you're right about a lot of this. Sometimes people do think, oh, you're going backwards, but I think that what I'm really after is trying to take the best that we have as far as the knowledge, the technology
Right.
that we have gained over generations, plus the best of what we've already known in the past, and bring them together into something that is new, and it's familiar, because we're like, oh, I think I remember these days, or I've heard about these days. People taking care of each other, and knowing each other on the local level, and knowing your neighbors, and working together, and mutual aid, and these common concepts. And for me, I think that I get that not only through the philosophy that I've read as well, but also from my grandmother, who has a farm in Kentucky and has grown up, taking care of herself, and she's, in her 80s now, and she told me she never had canned soup till she was like 30 years old, and like met her husband or something like that. And so, because she's used, and she still does it every week, goes out in her garden, picks stuff, cans food, and takes it down to her cellar, her basement, and puts it away. And just so many different skills that are secondhand to her, that have been lost or forgotten, or we simply just didn't need to do it because other people were doing it for so long. And now I think we went to one extreme when there was all of a sudden wealth for the nation. People wanted, they wanted chemicals and everything. They wanted other people to do things for them. And now we're realizing, like, wait, maybe we went a little too far. Maybe there's value in taking care of ourselves and having skills and having a sense of self and connection to those close to you.
And not having poison as food.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
because that's huge. And what you were just talking about as far as your grandmother and canning, all of this is, if people would stop eating produce from the grocery store and support local farmers, I guarantee you our nation would be much healthier. The obesity would begin to plummet because of the garbage that is in the produce department, it's in the meat department, it's on the shelves in the crackers and cereal and whatever else. I mean, it's nothing, it's poison. I mean, it's sold to us as food, but it's really poison. And I think that, once again, and this is a huge subject for me, is getting back to real food, a real diet, and looking at our lives from that perspective, because once your system gets cleaned out and all of these toxins begin to flush themselves out through clean food and a better lifestyle, all of a sudden your mind becomes clearer, you see things a lot differently, you hear things differently, you act different, everything changes completely, and your world looks a lot different. All of a sudden, the people that are walking down the street don't look like a threat. They look like people walking down the street. All of a sudden, your neighbor, you feel it's okay to go knock on their door and say, "Hey, I need a cup of milk or whatever, or I need some help with my lawn. I need some help with this, and I'll help you with whatever you have." All of these things start to change because your mind is clear. It's not full of dope. It's not full of poison. Your blood is clean. Everything's
Absolutely.
clean.
Absolutely. Yeah,
So,
it's a full. That's why I used the term earlier and I didn't really explain it, but I'll just leave it to the audience to go look it up. But the term holistic comes into play because you're looking at body, mind, soul, heart, full being. You want to clean your body out of toxins, both in the sense of the propaganda they've tried to put in your mind, as well as the poison that many of us have been ingesting for most of our lives. So it's a full spectrum thing. It's about healing all around and taking a holistic look at your life. As I said, trying to see the ways you're contributing to your own enslavement and to your own downfall, and rebuilding yourself up.
exactly. And I want to make one last comment, then I'm going to allow you to make a comment, and then we're going to wrap this up, Derrick. Um, Cryptocurrencies, your tour is sponsored by Bitcoin.com. And I made the point earlier that I haven't been a big fan, but my views on cryptocurrencies are changing because of what you said and what you pointed out a minute ago. Cryptocurrencies, yes, the Federal Reserve, any central bank, all central banks, they can come in, they can co-opt them. But what you pointed out is that people can make a jump. I can move from this cryptocurrency to another cryptocurrency with little to no effort, and keep moving and still remain outside of their system. That is the part that I find most intriguing and most beneficial to the potential of cryptocurrencies gaining more favor. I mean, like I said, I'm still not 100% sold on them, but it's that one aspect is helping me to feel better about them, because that's that can really change our lives to where we have the option of getting away from it. Right now, I can't get away from a dollar. I can't go into a store and say, "Here's a silver eagle. I'd like to pay for my groceries with my silver eagle." They're not going to take it. Period. They're not going to know what to do with it. So that's the one thing. And what would you like to leave the audience with, Derrick?
Well, yeah, I'm glad that, well, at least I'm giving you something to think about when it comes to crypto. And as I said, I definitely can understand the concerns over crypto. Well, first off, definitely, yes, we want to emphasize huge thanks to Bitcoin.com. We're getting other sponsors, as the days roll along. I actually just got a new sponsor that's related to medical cannabis, so that's cool as well. But definitely, Bitcoin.com is helping us do this entire tour. Roger Ver, who is the CEO and the founder of Bitcoin.com, is sometimes known as in the media as Bitcoin Jesus because he was one of the early investors in Bitcoin. He's made himself quite wealthy. He was already pretty wealthy over other investments, but he's also similarly minded and of a similar philosophy. And so he's invested his money into projects that are things like this that help spread this message that he supports. So it's more about, hey, I support the philosophy you're out there doing, so we want to make sure this tour happens. And they are our big number one top level sponsor because they're funding the entire tour as far as our cost for gas, the trailer that I'm about to go pick up, the food, everything. They're taking care of everything to help us spread this message. And of course, in exchange, we want people to know that Bitcoin.com is a great resource, and I mean that truly. That if you don't know what Bitcoin.com or Bitcoin isn't at all, go to Bitcoin.com and there's a tab that says like Get Started, and it'll take you through all the different aspects of Bitcoin, from the mining to understanding the blockchain to where do I buy it, how can I use it, where can I shop. With this, you can order a Bitcoin debit card, so you can have your wallet, connect your Bitcoin wallet directly connected to it and use it out. That's the way that the ecosystem has already grown over the last couple of years. Is now you can have a card directly attached to your Bitcoin and go out and use that like you would any other debit card. And there's still more decentralizing to do, I believe, in that area, because the true decentralized nature from their system will be when the people have their own banks in some form, and we're not even using these, because a lot of cards, whether it's a Visa gift card or whatnot, it's backed up by some bank. And typically when you do the research, and I've done this, you go and search those banks that are backing that particular card, they're usually owned by one of the big top banks.
Right.
So we're getting away so far when it comes to that. But the ecosystem is growing, and Bitcoin.com Roger's a great guy, and they're real supportive of what we do. And we're going to have free Bitcoin.com merch with us, as far as, pens and wristbands and stuff, and tons of information as well. And we'll be helping people get signed up with Bitcoin wallets as well. If they've never used one before and they want to get involved, that's something that we're going to be helping on the road as well.
Very cool. Well, it sounds like you're going to have your hands full. So
yeah, I believe it.
I don't want to take up any more of your time. I know you guys are getting ready to pack up and hit the road. So Derrick, we've been speaking with Derrick Broze, and you can find out all about what's going on over at the conscienceresistance.com. Got all the tour dates, find out when they're coming to your city, and if they're not coming to your city, then find out how close they're going to be. And after all the dates that you've got fulfilled, do you think you're probably going to extend this any, or is this it for now?
I definitely will. So as far as all the dates that we have set, they're going. We are doing 2 weeks in Texas, which is just about to start, and then, as you said earlier, July and August will be West Coast and Midwest. Then we're going to take a month off, and then October we'll be hitting the East Coast, and that'll be officially the official end of this first run. But without a doubt, we're already planning to do a tour again, probably in the spring of next year, around March or so, sometime in that area. And if people do see the dates on the consciousresistance.com/tour, you'll notice there's some major cities like Seattle and a few others that are northwest, and some other areas that we're not hitting this time. We definitely want to go there. We're just we're crunched for time on this one. So next one, we're going to be hitting all the cities that we missed this time around. So if you don't see us on your city on there, please come out to the closest one if you can, and if not, you can get in touch with me and we can start setting something up for the future.
Sounds great. And once again, Derrick does do a lot of writing. You can find a lot of his work published over at Activist Post. I pick it up whenever possible and republish it at the Daily Coin. Derrick, we certainly appreciate all your time. Looking forward to you coming to Nashville, and we wish you nothing but all the success on this tour and making it happen.
Thank you very much.